Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido and today is the Levincia Wonders going up against the Turrfield Ebonies, and they'll be starting off with their Fuego Ironworks and Masquerade Ball decks respectively. But as they have a look at their opening hands, let's have a look at this tail of the tape, as the Wonders are currently sitting 2 places outside of a top 5 spot, whereas the Ebonies are in one of those crucial spots that could get them back into Victory Road this season, and they were able to clean sweep the Wonders last season and they want to repeat that here again today. So with that said, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win this matchup. Will it be the Lightning decks? Will it be the Grass decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
And going first, it will be the Fuego Ironworks deck, and they've got the Pachirisu and the Shinx in hand. They've actually got the whole Shinx line there ready to go, plus the Electivire as they move the Pachirisu into the active spot with the Shinx on the bench. The Ebonies have both the Roselia and Kricketune line in hand, moving the Roselia into the active spot with the Kricketot on the bench. They've got the Rocky Helmet as well, but the Wonders are going to pull the Electabuzz here, which they immediately move onto the bench knowing they've got that Electivire. There's not much else they can do, so they send it over to the Turrfield Ebonies, who pull the Sprigatito, who they immediately move onto the bench as well. They put the Rocky Helmet onto the Roselia. Now that Roserade that is in hand does require 2 energy, and we do see that first energy being moved onto the Roselia so it can go for this sting, doing 20 damage to that Pachirisu. Now Pachirisu only requires 1 energy, but it can get an extra energy generated into the energy zone that can move onto one of the 2 bench Pokemon that is now a Luxio, having been moved onto that Shinx, and the Electivire can be put onto the Electabuzz as the Wonders are not trying to rush their turn here. They are hovering that energy over the Pachirisu, and that is exactly what they go with. They go for the Plasma. They haven't evolved the Electabuzz yet, but they do get that 10 energy onto the Roselia, moving an energy onto the Electabuzz thanks to that charge. Sorry, I called that a charge. It's charge that the Electabuzz does, it's Plasma that the Pachirisu does, and that Roserade is online for the Ebonies, as is the Kricketune, and they've just pulled the Cyrus. Now, this Roserade does do the Poisonous Whip that immediately poisons the active Pokemon of the opposing side, but with that 50 damage, that doesn't really matter because the Pachirisu is taken off the board, and the Turrfield Ebonies get the first point here in Game 1 of this best of 3 series. And regardless of the outcome of the first 2 games, we still go to our Game 3 that counts towards the leaderboard, as the Luxray is online for the Wonders. It immediately gets the giant cape that was pulled as well, taking its health up to 150, and it has a 0 retreat cost as now the Electivire is online, getting its second required energy. That exciting voltage does 40 damage, but if there are 4 lightning energy on Electivire, it does 120. It does an additional 80 damage as the Floragato that was pulled for the Ebonies immediately put online, getting its first energy, and the Poisonous Whip from the Roserade, 50 damage to the Luxray plus the additional 10 thanks to that poisoning. And it is the second Electivire being pulled for the Wonders as a 3rd energy onto that active Electivire, and they just end their turn there. They're happy for the Luxray to take the damage for the time being, as the Ebonies do pull the Kricketune. They can continue on the offensive with this Roserade doing another 50 damage to the Luxray, bringing it down to 30 health. That poisoning will bring it down to 20 health as well. And it does come back to the Wonders, who pull the Celestic Town Elder. They can get a random basic Pokemon from their discard pile. The only one there at the moment is Pachirisu, but the 4th energy is on the Electivire. The Luxray has been retreated, cured of the poisoning in the process, and with this exciting voltage, it is going to wipe the Roserade off the board. 120 damage. There is the 20 recoil thanks to that Rocky Helmet, but it is very exciting for the Levincia Wonders indeed, having this Electivire set up so that it can unleash on this Masquerade Ball deck of the Turrfield Ebonies, and it is the Kricketune moved into the active spot. It still requires 1 more energy as the Ebonies do pull their Pokeball. And they do get their second Kricketot in hand, who they immediately put onto the bench. They can play the Cyrus if they want to drag that Luxray into the active spot, otherwise they can target this Electivire, and that is exactly what they're going to do, going with this Entrancing Melody, 50 damage onto the Electivire. They're going to leave it confused, so it will be a coin flip that determines if it's able to get off this exciting voltage. The second Pachirisu has been pulled. They immediately put it onto the bench, but it's the Luxray getting its first energy. The exciting voltage can take this Kricketune off the board. They just need to flip the heads. And they are successful. They flip the heads and another 120 damage taking this taking this Kricketune off the board. The Electivire is running rampant over this Masquerade Ball deck at the moment as the Fuego Ironworks get their second point. It is the Giant Cape being pulled for the Ebonies, but that will not take either of the Floragato and the Kricketot up to enough health, but they immediately play the Cyrus. They're not going to go for the coin flip. This is going to ensure that Electivire is cured of that confusion. The Slash will take the Luxray off the board, but the Turrfield Ebonies were willing to give up the loss here because that is exactly what is going to happen. That Electivire is free to come back on the board. They did not want to run the risk, and Electivire can go for another exciting voltage. They completely turn this game on its head, and this Electivire has run rampant through the Masquerade Ball. And just like that, the Wonders have taken game 1 to ensure that the Ebonies will not get a second clean sweep over the Lightning decks. As we get a table reset as well, the coin flip will go to the Ebonies. They are going first, and they're going to be using their Pollen Puff deck, and we can see what looks to be an Oddish in hand, and they do have the Cherrim that was blocking the view. I almost thought it was a Cherubi, but it's the Voltorb going into the active spot for the Levincia Wonders and their fully charged deck. Here we go though, game 2 as the Vespiquen is pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies. They need a Gloom, they've got a Giant Cape and the Rocky Helmet. They immediately put the Rocky Helmet onto this Oddish. Again, we always know it does that 20 recall damage if the active Pokemon takes any damage, and the Voltorb only does 10 damage with that Lightning Ball, but they do have a Pokeball and a Professor's Research. They play the Pokeball to get the Magnemite, and we can see those 2 Magnezones in hand. They play the Professor's Research to get another 2 cards. They get the Electrode, they get the Magneton. This is a great start for this fully charged deck of the Levincia Wonders. They get their own Rocky Helmet onto that active Voltorb as well. And they do move the Magnemite onto the bench. It's always beneficial to have at least one Pokemon on the bench. That would not be a way to want to be defeated. And they do put the energy onto the Magnemite, so that we know they're not going on the offensive with the Voltorb, but that Electrode only requires 1 energy as well. As the Cherubi has actually been pulled now for the Turrfield Ebonies, they move that onto the bench. They've got the Cherrim in hand, and they are going to put that Giant Cape. They actually look like they're trying to put the Giant Cape onto the Oddish, but they decided against it. They just put the energy onto the Oddish, and they do go for the Blot. This will guarantee that it loses 20 health. It only did 10 damage to the Voltorb. This could be a massive error for the Ebonies because that Electrode is in hand. Not that the Ebonies are aware of that, but that rolling attack only requires 1 energy and does 50 damage. And here it is, that Magneton's online as well, but it is the Electrode getting its first and only required energy. The rolling attack, 50 damage, and Oddish is wiped off the board as the Wonders are looking to roll that momentum into game 2 here after what they just did in game 1. And the Ebonies do move that Cherubi into the active spot now. It's only got 50 health. They're limited on their options. They did just pull their second Oddish, but they need to evolve that Cherubi into the Cherrim, and this one with the Leech Seed does require 2 energy, so it can't go on the offensive just yet. It does do 60 damage, but they do move the Giant Cape onto it as well, taking its health up to 100, increasing it by 20. There's not much else they can do, so they send it over to the Wonders. They pull their second Magneton, but they can get this Magnezone on live, who does require a 3rd energy still, but they can continue with these rolling attacks onto the Cherrim, taking it down to only 50 health. And the Ebonies pulling their second Professor's Research, get another 2 energy, they get the Combi, they get the second Vespiquen. They do move the Combi onto the bench. Now there is a variation between these 2 Vespiquens. One of them with the Pierce does 70 damage, only 2 energy required. Otherwise, that second Vespiquen, 120 damage, but it does have that 30 recall damage, as the Cherrim is able to take that Electrode off the board. With the Leech Seed, it does restore 20 health, but it loses that instantly to the Rocky Helmet. So the Ebonies do get their first point, but this Magnezone is only 1 energy away from being able to unleash with this Thunder Blast, 110 damage, and there is not a single Pokemon on the side of the Ebonies right now that can outlast that, and that includes the Cherrim, who is wiped off the board. The Wonders only need 1 more point to ensure that they win this series. It is the Combi, being moved into the active spot as the second Combi is pulled and immediately moved onto the bench. So they've they've got the Pierce Vespiquen and the Reckless Charge Vespiquen. They need to determine which one they want to use because they both only have 110 health. They are limited on what they can do. They can't get that Blossom online, who does have 130 health, but they've been unable to pull a Gloom so far. And Gloomy is exactly how it's looking for this Pollen Puff deck right now. They do go with the Pierce Vespiquen into the active spot. It gets its first energy, but the Wonders are not concerned with that. They just need to move an energy onto the Magnezone, and another Thunder Blast is going to lock up this series, and they wipe this Vespiquen off the board for the easy win, and they will be taking it to a game 3 to try and get the clean sweep, whereas the Ebonies are just trying to offset the damage that they have taken. But with our final board reset, the Ebonies will be going first once again. This time they're going with the Flower Paradise deck. You can see the 2 Turtwigs and the Morotom in hand, the Wonders with their Volt Tackle deck. And it is the Morotom going into the active spot with one of the Turtwigs on the bench. The Wonders have the Pawmi and the Electrike, moving the Electrike into the active spot, the Pawmi on the bench, because they've got that Manectric in hand who also only requires 1 energy. We've seen these Torterras that was just pulled as well for this Flower Paradise deck do a great deal of damage this season, and they are going to play the Pokemon Communication to send that second Turtwig back into the bench, and they get the Grottle out, so they've got the full Torterra line. They can't evolve it just yet as this is turn 1. They send it over to the Wonders, who do get the Professor's Research. They play that immediately. They are going to get the Pawmo and the Pawmot, so they've got the Pawmot and the Manectric lines in hand. This is great for the Wonders because they want to prevent that Torterra from being set up, as it does do 20 damage to the Morotom from the Electrike, the Giant Cape being pulled for the Turrfield Ebonies. And the Grottle is now online for the Ebonies. Now the Morotom as well does require 2 energy. The Wonders get their second Pawmo, but they can easily go on the offensive. This Volt Tackle deck can get online very quickly with the amount of energies that are needed for each of their Pokemon. No more than 2 energies required at the maximum. And it is the Manectric with the Flash, with a coin flip as well. It could determine whether or not that Morotom is able to even do damage to the Manectric, as they do pull the X speed, the Ebonies. And they do put a second energy onto the Morotom for this energy cutoff that does 30 damage. It is a coin flip though to determine in the first place if they will do anything to the Wonders, and they get the tails, so they're not going to be able to do anything to this Manectric, who will be free to take the Morotom off the board. The Wonders are in fine form here today with the cards they are pulling and the coin flips they are getting. They do play their Iono as well, so they've got that Pawmot online. Both teams have to shuffle their hands into their decks. The Rocky Helmet, the Pikachu, and the Pawmot for the Wonders. The Ebonies getting the Morotom, the Shaman, and the Giant Cape. They do pull the same amount of cards that they had in their hand. That is how the Iono works. And there is a second energy onto the Pawmot after that Pikachu comes online, but the Manectric wipes that Morotom off the board. And even after doing that Flash, it doesn't matter for the time being, because for Torterra it requires 4 energy as the second Turtwig has been pulled. The Shaman comes online and it has that Fragrant Flower Garden ability that can restore 10 health of any of the Ebony's cards that have taken damage. And there is the Giant Cape going onto the Torterra as well, just to boost that health up to 180, gets its first energy. And the Wonders, having just pulled their Pawmo, can now start setting up the Pikachu with its first energy, but they're going for maximum offense here. They're going with the Pawmo in the active spot, that Electric Punch doing 70 damage. They want to try and get this Torterra offline as quickly as possible. The Pokeball pulled for the Ebonies. They are going to play that immediately, and there's only one more basic Pokemon, that being the Shaman, in the deck of the Ebonies, so they can both use these abilities. They can restore 20 health from this Torterra right now to try and buy them an extra turn from the damage that will be received by this Pawmot. We would have expected Pawmot to be able to take this Torterra off in 2 turns, but now thanks to these 2 Shamans, it will take at least 4 turns, which will allow the Torterra to get all the energy required. As the Wonders get their Pawmi out of their deck, they've got 2 Pawmot lines ready to go. Now they just have to get those evolutions happening. But the Electric Punch, once again, another 70 damage to the Torterra as the Ebonies pull their Dawn. This can get them to move an energy from a benched Pokemon to the active Pokemon, but at the moment they're just concerned with setting up this Torterra. However, the Wonders are actually in full control of the Torterra though, with 150 damage. It is huge, but unfortunately for them, it cannot use them in consecutive turns, and that is crucial here. The Wonders do pull their second Pikachu, but they move the Pawmo into the bench position, getting its second energy, as well as the electric punches just keep coming from Pawmo, now taking Torterra down to only 10 health remaining. That's where those Shamans were crucial, having both of them ready to play. If one of them had been missing that first turn, Torterra would have been taken off the board already. They're able to restore more health with these Fragrant Flower Gardens, but it only gets it up to 30 health. It is an easy target for the other members of the Wonders. They get the third energy onto the Torterra, they use the Dawn to move an energy from that Rotom into the Torterra, and 150 damage with this Frenzy Plant. Now Torterra will take 20 recoil damage as well from this Pawmo. The Ebonies do get their first point in Game 3, but this is not good. Now the Wonders have only taken 1 point as well, but they do move their Pawmo into the active spot. They pull their second Electrike. The Pawmo, that second Pawmo though, is online, and with this Electric Punch, they're not even worried about going for the energy attached. Now that they should be conscious of, and that is finally what they do. But this Electric Punch, 70 damage to wipe this Torterra off the board, chipping away every turn at that massive Pokemon. And the Wonders are only 1 point away from returning the favour that the Ebonies gave to them last season in round 1. The Ebonies clean swept the Wonders, but now the Wonders are trying to clean sweep the Ebonies. The Professor's research gets them the X speed and the Pokemon Center Lady. Now Rotom can outlast a hit from this Pawmo. As they pull the Giant Cape to the Levincia Wonders, they immediately move it to the Pawmo, who has 140 health. It was very close to being able to outlast a hit from the Torterra. They move a second energy onto the Pikachu, and this Electric Punch, 70 damage onto the Rotom. It has 20 health remaining. The Ebonies pull their Rocky Helmet. They can use those Fragrant Flower Gardens, they can use the Pokemon Center Lady, but realistically they are very limited on what they can do. They can just try and hope that the Wonders might make a mistake. They are restoring the health of Rotom. They do restore it by 50 overall thanks to the 2 Shamans and the Pokemon Center Lady. They get it back up to 60. And with this energy cutoff though, it only does 30 damage to the Pawmo, and there will be that 20 recoil from the counter attack, that ability that the Pawmo has. They do flip ahead, so the Wonders have to get rid of one of their energies, but it does not matter at this point because the Wonders generate that energy, they move it to the Pawmo, and with this Electric Punch, they get the clean sweep in Season A2 over the Ebonies to return what the Ebonies did to them in Season A1, and in very impressive fashion, as the Wonders are going to move themselves up into a almost up into a top 5 spot. They are still 1 spot out, barely though, as they now are in 6th next round, going up against the Melamela Rumbles, who are in 5th, whereas for the Ebonies next round, they are going up against the Kitakami Rogues. But until then, Nidorinas, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought the best card was, and if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, send thanks, and I'll see you when you see me.